and then we will look at those as we go. So I'd like to ask Grace now to say a prayer for us, please.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Dear Lord, bless this evening as we gather for this Zoom session, and we thank you for all that we have. Bless our priests, nuns, and teachers, and may they be guided by God's wisdom and love.
On the door, one's blue and one's pink.
Please give us the strength.
The one over there is dirty. He says, I go to the clean toilet.
Carol, we can hear Andrew.
Please give us the strength and the courage to face any challenges and to overcome any difficulties that may come our way. We pray for the people of Ukraine. Please protect them and keep them safe. Please protect us, our families and friends, and keep us all safe in your loving arms. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Grace.
Thank you. I will now hand to Pam, who's the host for the evening. So all yours, Pam.
Thanks very much, Grace. And now the moment has arrived, and we all know who our special guest is. And so it's a big Bullavanaka Jenny. Let us see you, please. And this is wonderful, and we're absolutely thrilled to be able to welcome you as our guest speaker this evening.
Thank you, Pam.
And you're sitting very comfortably in our beautiful motherland, and it's lovely and warm over there, I imagine, Fiji. So, because you've actually travelled recently, have you, Jenny?
That's correct, yes.
Would you like to just sort of share, was it a family visit or visiting family?
Sure, yeah. So as soon as I was able to travel, I've made 2 visits to Brisbane since. My first one, I think, was towards March. I spent 2 weeks. I went to Brisbane, really to see my mom, who's 90 years old.
Wow.
And then, yes, I went to Gold Coast for an outsourcing conference, and I went to Melbourne for Australian Institute of Company Directors Conference. So I facilitate for the AICD. Then I went back to Brisbane. And then last week I returned from Brisbane. I had 2 lovely weeks there. That was just relaxation. We celebrated my mother's birthday early, 90 years old, and my brother Paul, 70 years. So Paul is the father of Joshua and Jason, who's also on the call, my favorite nephews. So Josh lives in Sydney, and Jason is in Brisbane. So Josh drove up his Josh actually drove up to Brisbane for the occasion, and his sister, my niece Tanya, flew in from Switzerland and with her husband and baby. So it was a very lovely occasion, where we had lots of parties and ate as well. So I missed all the food because for 2 years I hadn't been to Australia. So yeah, it was lovely to be back there.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thanks for that, Jenny. Now, perhaps would you like to share some of your, a little bit about your family, where your parents' origins were, and where you were born, and about your siblings, and what life was like as a child?
Yes. So my parents are originally from Canton in China. My father came as a very young boy. I think he was about 13 years old when he came. Didn't know a word of English, but he picked up the language, went back to China, married my mom. It was an arranged marriage, of course, in those days. And so he came back to Fiji. My mom followed. By then, my brother Paul, who's Josh and Jason's dad, was already, she had already given birth to him. So whenever we forget my mother's age, we just ask Paul what his age is, and we know it's a 20-year difference. So, so I grew up in Toorak, but when my parents were in Fiji, they actually started they were in Silver for a while, then they went to Taveuni. So we had an uncle there who had a grog plantation. And later, as my brothers were of school age, by then there was Josh's dad, Jason's dad, Paul, and my other brother, Terence. They then came to Suva. So I'm number 3 in the family, and I have a younger brother called Norman. So my parents grew up as, they were shopkeepers in Toorak. Some of you might know Wing Sang. I think Roz would know. Very famous shop in those days. So We all helped in the shop, woke up early, 5 o'clock in the morning or 4:30, we used to get up, collect the bread, the newspapers that were put at the gate. And we helped our parents open the shop, and then had breakfast, go to school, come back, have a cup of tea, back in the shop, have dinner, back in the shop again, and then homework. So that was the sort of life we had. But my mother also, our parents also looked after a number of my cousins, all male cousins. So I was the only girl growing up in the household. At any one time, we probably had about 8 to 9 boys in the house. So so my cousins, their parents were on farms either in Tavuni or at Nasori, Sawani. So they all came to Suva for their education. So my parents actually looked after them while they were in Suva.
Right. So being the only girl, did you sort of take precedence for anything, or did you just have to fit in with the rest of them then, Jenny?
No, I wish I had. My mother, our parents were really strict.
Yes.
And as a girl, I learned I had to really help around the house, cook very early, help, we helped in the shop. We did all of those things. So I wish I was favored a bit, but I don't think so. Our household was just too big for mum and them to grant any favors.
Oh, look, thanks for sharing that. Wonderful just hearing about your family life, Jenny. And so perhaps we could now move on to school, to your primary school. When did you start? What year was it? I presume from the beginning. And it was St. Anne's.
Yes, it was St. Anne's. I can't even remember what year I started, but let's see, 60 years ago. I'm giving away my age. I'm 65, or will be 65. So I would have started as a 5-year-old. I don't really recollect class 1 and class 2, but I recollect class 3 because that was a milestone year, when I did my first Holy Communion.
Oh.
St. Anne's was, I really enjoyed going to the school. I was part of the Legion of Mary, and we helped polish, all those brass vases in the sacristy. We had to iron vestments, the priest's vestments. We helped along the church, polish stuff. But it was good. It was, and I think we were naughty along the way as well, in actually carrying out our chores. But being part of the Legion, I think really shaped me for the future. It just, of course we did the usual, said the rosary, had our meetings and all that, but we did all this extra work. And Sister Teresia, or Teresa as we knew her then, she's passed on, right? She passed on in the cooks. So she was the one at the time who actually looked after the sacristy. So we actually helped, yeah.
So I guess the teachers were equally strict in those days too, were they, Jenny?
Oh yes, very. So we had sister, the nuns were Sister Aloysius, but now known as Sister Katerina. There was Sister Agnes. Oh, we had great fun with Sister Agnes. I have to share a story with you later. Sister Agnes. Which other nuns did we have, Grace?
Sister Joseph.
Sister Joseph, I think, was the redhead Joseph. I think she was there as well. I think that's where I got to know her. But oh yes, and Mother James. We called her Mother James.
All right, yeah.
Mother James.
Yes, they had different titles then, did they?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why we called her Mother Jane. She was elderly. She may have been the head of the nuns at the time, so she was known as Mother James. But with Sister Agnes, I have to share a funny story with you. So the nuns used to do all the shopping at Haptai. So in the morning, Sister would give some of us a basket. And I don't know whether any of you girls ever did this for the nuns, but give us this really rotten looking Fijian basket, these square baskets for shopping. And we were so ashamed to take it out for shopping. We used to hide it under the building, and then we'd go to Haptai, get the shopping, come back, put it in the bag, and then take it up to the convent. I mean, well, we have, I had lovely memories of Sister Agnes and the way she taught us maths. I didn't like maths, but with her as a teacher, she really made you do maths well. So yeah, it's I think those of us who went through with her, we actually learned a lot from her. And I remember every morning we'd collect for Holy Childhood. So she'd have this APC. Remember those APC tablets?
Yeah.
The Vincent, I think it was called
yeah.
Vincent or whatever. So she brings the container in front of you and she won't move until she hears a coin drop. So she'd come shaking in front of us.
Knowing you had the coins to put in there.
Yeah.
So it sounds
Yeah,
as though
so
she
those
was
were
rather-
lovely years at St. Anne's. Yeah.
It sounds as though she was rather a special, a favourite teacher then. Huh?
Yeah. She was quite strict though, I must say.
Uh-huh. So, so Jenny, please tell us about this mysterious MCC club that you belong to at St. Anne's. You'll have to
Wow,
share.
you've got good intelligence, I have to say. So MCC stood for the Military Cross Club. Now, I can't remember why we called it Military Cross Club, but I think it was from reading Enid Blyton's books, the famous fights we used to read. And I think it was based on that, the adventures. So a few of us got together and we called ourselves the MCC Club. So we'd meet on the steps, we'd eat, share stories. It was just so funny when you bring it up. I thought, wow, I'd forgotten about the club until you raised it. But it was really, when I reflect on it, I don't know whether we were really juveniles in those days or what, to have a club called that. Yeah.
Well, so Jenny, it sounds like a lot of fun, but so you're still in contact with any of the girls from primary school?
Yes, we do. Actually, we have a really good group going, and Grace is one of them, and Veronica as well, who we can't see. And so I created a WhatsApp group a few years ago. So we've been sharing stories, pictures of families, ourselves, what we do. And we've been having reunions as well. So ever since, that's
Yes.
one of them. Yeah. So ever since, I think the first big Jubilee celebration we had in Fiji. So our group, most of the girls came over and we continued to meet since then. So our class has really scattered. If you look at the picture on the left, that's Christine Beetham or Bent Giblin now. There's Christine Sikuri with that orange. That's Vivian Chang in the green. I think that's Maura Yandel behind Vivian. And this is Zita Lim. She was one of the twins. She has another twin called Pat. So Zita's in Malaysia, but she goes to Toronto as well. There's Marion beside Zita. I can't see who's behind that, but that's Marion Lilo or Singh, who's in New Zealand, very active with Jacinta. So thank you, New Zealand girls as well. And I think they do visit the nuns quite often. That's Olivia Petuelli next to Marion. There's myself. And that's Caroline Shankar. Some of you might know her older sister called Dorothy, and she's in Vancouver. And that's Christine Wong and Josephine, who's also in Vancouver. So we try and meet. We thought we'd meet every 5 years, or certainly at milestones like 60, 65, or 62. I think there's plans to have another reunion soon. But the girls we've met in New Zealand, we've met in Australia as well, and we just take turns organizing ourselves. So we keep in touch. Veronica always remind my husband Dixon that she knew me well before he did. That she knows me. She knew me when I was a 5-year-old, because most of us went through St. Anne's and then together at St. Joseph's. So she always reminds Dixon that. She said, I've known your wife longer than you have. So, yeah.
Well, that sounds like a wonderful relationship that you've had with all of those girls. All right, so let's move on to secondary school then. Jenny, this is the place that binds us together, where we all have, we share our beloved alma mater, St. Joseph's. So perhaps it would have been a bit different then from primary school, heading up to secondary school. And obviously some of your friends went with you, so it was nowhere near as, I suppose, intimidating as what starting at a new school would have been on your own.
Yeah.
So could you perhaps share some of your life at secondary school with us.
Right. Okay. So secondary school, I was reflecting the other day because I do work at the school, and when I go and visit the school every now and again, and I see all the girls sitting on the veranda having their lunch. And I was thinking maybe Grace and Veronica can help me out. In our days, I don't think we sat on the veranda, right? We all sat under the trees, and we had our lunch under the trees, and then we had bird droppings on us as well. We always had to be careful with that. But some of the points of interest, the grotto played a big part where I was concerned. I was head girl, and that really brought me out of my shell because would you believe it, growing up through primary and secondary, I blushed really badly. I mean, my face would just turn so red as a tomato, even if I had to stand up and speak. But being head girl, that really made me come out of my shell. But even reading or had to read a gospel or say a speech, I was really shy about those things. But we had, I always reflect on my time at St. Joseph's, and I know some girls don't really have a good experience at the school. But for me, I had, I think it really set the foundation for where I am today, and I'm really grateful, to the sisters of Clooney for shaping us. In those days, we didn't appreciate the discipline, but I think for all of us looking back now, that discipline was important. The discipline, things like religion. We don't, and this is what I always say to the Ministry of Education, when we have religion, it's not about the Bible. In my days, it was, I remember Sister Genevieve used to take us for some of the classes. It was about everything in life, the birds and the bees. And so I try and educate people that in a Catholic school, when we say we have RE classes, it's not really all about the Bible. There's other things, life lessons that we actually share with each other in those particular classes. Yeah, and then we had plays as well, concerts, which I really liked. So there's a lot of activity. But the other thing in St. Joseph's that I think really shaped me as well was being a member of St. Vincent de Paul. So a group of us joined St. Vincent de Paul, and we looked after this elderly gentleman. Grace and Veronica, I don't know if you remember, but he was named Mr. Udit. So he lived under the house. So if you recall, on Waimana Road, just between the convent and the hospital, there was this shop, Chinese shop. I think Jenny Seeto owned it, or he didn't own it in those days. So there was this elderly gentleman who lived under the house. So every lunchtime, we'd take food to him. We have time, we spend time with him, cut his hair, and he hated it. We had to cut his nails. We didn't enjoy cutting his nails, but we had to do it because they were really long and dirty, but we had to do it. And when I got my driver's license in Form 6, I was 17 then. Every Sunday, I would take him for a car ride. He was my date on a Sunday. 3 o'clock, I had to go. Even if I took him for 10 minutes, for him, that was eternity, because so I had to, if I couldn't go on that day, I had to ask someone to go, because he didn't understand if I didn't turn up. So he would just go and wait on the road. But he was, such a lovely gentleman, and I think all the girls, we really liked looking after him. I think it gave us a sense of purpose as well, and that really, for me, it shaped the things that I'm doing now post-retirement, in terms of helping out at NGOs, because I've always done that at a very young age, both in St. Anne's and at St. Joseph's.
Well, that sounds like a very full secondary school effort that you went through. So were there any exceptional teachers? Did you, one in particular that may have had loads of energy with an enormous intellect, or something that challenged you, or were there any particular one that stands out, or several?
I think we were really lucky in those days. The teachers in those days were really quite dedicated. I always remember Sister Irene, because she used to take singing lessons, and she used to make us open our mouths round and pronounce all our words, and that was really good, because now in terms of diction, that helped us speak better. And when I travel, people always ask me, because they can't quite pick my accent. And they think sometimes I'm from England, but they know I'm not from London because I don't have that English accent. So, you know, for Sister Irene, her singing lessons. I remember Sister Francis really well because Sister Francis used to play the guitar. So, Sister, I wasn't sure whether you learned the guitar while you were then at St. Joseph's, you were new to the guitar, or you always was a guitarist. But we enjoyed it when you used to, you know, pull out your guitar and make us sing along with you. That was certainly enjoyable.
Lovely.
Yeah. And
So, Jen,
yeah, carry on. Yeah.
I was just going to ask you, so, you know, was there anyone who was a real competitor against you in any of your challenges in life at school, academically, or I don't know, you spoke about the musicals that you, in the theatre, I don't know, any of those areas?
Not really. I guess academically, we had a girl called Louise Choi. Some of you might remember her. Tall, thin girl. She came from Singatoka. She was really brainy. Because I did quite well in primary school, and then coming to secondary, she was, I suppose, a competitor. But she was amazing. I've never forgotten because she just sits in the classroom every morning while we're all running around and making noise. She just sat there with her dictionary, and every day she learned a new word from the dictionary. I tried to do that a few times, copy her, but I didn't have that energy at all.
Okay, so did you ever push the boundaries? You know, any mischief you got up to, other than when you were at St. Anne's with going shopping and things like that? So, you know, did you push any of the boundaries? Were you ever did you ever have to go and report to Reverend Mother or the headmistress or school principal, whoever that was at the time?
Yeah,
were you too good being a head girl?
I think I was a fairly good student, but Grace and Veronica might remember some stories, I don't know. But I probably did something wrong once, because I remember having to go out and pull the sensitive grass. Remember where the current courts were? It was full of sensitive grass. So whenever we had detention, we had to go and pull sensitive grass. But I think I only did that once.
Oh my goodness. That says a lot about you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So it sounds as though, from what you've mentioned, that you were certainly well prepared for life after school then, Jenny. So which direction did you head into pursuing your later life? Further, studies, a combination of work and studies? Where did you head into after you left secondary?
So when I completed high school, being a female, in those days, my parents said, "Oh, you're a girl, you're going to get married, you have children, you don't need to go to university." And my two brothers ahead of me had already gone to university. One went to New Zealand and one went to Australia. So, I didn't really challenge them then. So I sort of thought, okay, but I wanted to go overseas. So I thought I'd become a Hansard reporter. It sounded glamorous. And I'd go overseas and do a secretarial course. But it just so happened that particular year, government, they didn't really allow people to go overseas. Then I thought I'd be a teacher. I didn't do that. And then, it was lucky I had a chance to go to university. I was given a scholarship. I think if I didn't have a scholarship, I wouldn't have gone to university. And I was just going to do a 3-year diploma in accounting program. So when I got the chance of a scholarship, my parents agreed that I could go to university. And so I went and I did accounting. I studied accounting. I think there was no particular reason to study accounting except, because my parents had a shop. And I did think then at the time, everybody needs an accountant. So I went on and studied accounting. And then I joined Coopers & Lybrand, then later became Pricewaterhouse. I became managing partner of Pricewaterhouse for a long time until my retirement in 2017. But I had a great career. When I think about the opportunities I've had, but I've also seized those opportunities. So I started off as an accountant, an auditor, a tax person. I did all the technical stuff. And later on, I branched out into consultancy work or advisory work and human resources. And that was a whole different kettle of fish as well. But you know, I became a partner at when I was about 30 years old. So that was really young, and the first female in a major accounting firm. But it really, I had a wonderful senior partner who mentored me well. And so I was involved, with government work at a very early age. I was able to network, and I did all of this despite, I think I was still fairly reserved and shy at that stage, but I knew I had to push the boundaries in that sense of the word, if I was to make a success of my career. Yeah, so I've had a very busy life, too busy, I think, and the stress that goes with it. But, if I remember I always think of what Dolly Parton, I read what Dolly Parton said, if you want the rainbows, you've got to take the rain as well. So I always remind myself about that saying.
Oh, that's a good mantra, isn't it? So,
Yes.
Wonderful. Jenny, now, are you still associated with St. Joseph's? Are you still chair of the board, or would you like to
Yes.
share what your current involvement is with the school?
Okay, so I chair the school management board, which was formed about 4 years ago now. But prior to the school management board, I was part of the advisory board. So there was Imrana Jalal and Marie Chan and myself, together with Sister Genevieve. I think the sisters already realized at the time that there was, that had to be a transition, because we didn't have the ladies coming through and joining religious life, as many as they were before. And we could already see, I think they could already see the drop off in terms of people joining the novitiate. And of course, Sister G wasn't going to be around forever. She was, aging as well. So that was part of the transition, the advisory board. Then we transitioned into the management board, and I took on the role of the chair for that. And that's been really challenging. But we're at the end of this management board now. On this Saturday, we're going to have our final AGM, where we will dissolve the board, because we're going to go into a new structure as mandated by the Ministry of Education. But in my role as the board, I really have to thank all the alumni around the world. It started off, I suppose, with Roz. Thank you, Roz, the support when I made that first trip to Sydney, and the New Zealand girls led by Jacinta came on board, and then the US girls with Miliana as well. Because, the ladies around the world really helped us improve the standard of education in our schools. If although government talks about free education, the funds are limited, of course. What they give each student a year is not much, and the amounts has been decreasing. So all the facilities, when we came into the school, the classrooms were in a state of disrepair, the fans didn't work, and we didn't have, I always remember my conversation with the Sydney girls, because we had computers that were in the library that hadn't been used, because there was just no money to pay for internet. So one of the commitments made first by the Sydney girls was to provide us internet for 3 years. So thank you. That's really made a big difference to the girls in their learning. So we were able to, redo classrooms, provide a much better teaching environment. And of course, that then improved the standard of teaching, because then the girls, the teachers themselves were also very happy. So on the screen, you see a donation made by the Sydney girls to the sisters. I think this was during Sister Genevieve's, was it her anniversary or the first year when this picture was actually taken? So I always encourage the girls as well to help the sisters as well. With under the education payment rules that we have in Fiji. So although the school and the grounds are actually owned by the sisters, we aren't allowed to pay the sisters any rent. And so, with the sisters not teaching at the schools and earning money when they were able to teach, I think it's as past pupils of the school, we we should be supporting the sisters. And I'm glad to say that, you know, all the girls do support the sisters. New Zealand send money to the girls as well, to the sisters as well. And so, you know, the alumni around the world do share our burden in terms of supporting the school. So I'm really grateful to all of, and that just makes my life as chair and our board, the life of our board, a lot more easier and manageable. And I do spend time, you know, with the girls. I think one of the things that I've brought on board is accountability. And that's really important in today's world. You know, the girls relate to me that in the past, they weren't given feedback of where their money went. So they were reluctant to spend. So I created a chat, and, you know, whenever the girls wanted to do projects, I'd send photos of what it was then and now, and I'd get quotes, I send it to them. So I engage the girls in that way. And I do hope that when the management committee, the new management committee comes on board, that they will actually do the same. So on the screen, you see a picture, a recent picture. That's our lovely school hall, which Sister Genevieve, you know, worked so hard to build. We all contributed funds towards that. So you all recognize His Grace Archbishop and Sister Lucy, and that's Pule, our hardworking secretary and president of the alumni, and of course Bernadette Brown-Sganila, which I'm sure you all recognize.
Oh my goodness, yes. Talk about a busy person, no doubt about it. So now, what about congratulations on being awarded the Officer of the Order of the Fiji Medal? And was that in 2018? A wonderful achievement. Perhaps if you can tell us about this award and then any other prestigious awards that you've received, Jenny, if you could just go through that for us, please.
Oh, well, you know, when you do work in the community or whatever work you do, you really don't think about, I guess, the awards or the rewards that will come later. I've been, so on the screen, on the left-hand side is a picture of myself with my son Gareth when I received the Order of Fiji. And on the right-hand side is the 50th anniversary medal. So these were, you know, quite a surprise for me. I didn't expect it because the nominations are, you know, made by other people. But basically, they're for the work that I do in business and development of the various, I guess, organizations in government that I've been involved with. For example, I was, you know, one of the first when Fiji returned to democracy in 2014. I was one of the first election commissioners doing, you know, that returned the country to elections. I didn't get the medal for that though, but it was just generally for my work in the community as well. So I'm also president of the Chinese Association of Fiji, and also I, you know, trustee of various Chinese organizations. So I do a lot of work in those particular areas. So these ones on the screen is the Women in Business and National Contribution Award, which was given to me. Again, that was nominated, complete surprise. And then the Fiji Human Resource Institute, Lifetime Achievement, the picture of myself and Dixon. So I voluntarily did a lot of work with the Fiji Human Resource Institute, just guiding, you know, the members of the Institute a fair bit and mentoring people as well. So they actually recognized me for that.
So, and Jenny, you've also had the honour of meeting several members of the royal family. And perhaps if you'd like to tell us about those occasions, and of course we know that you wouldn't break any royal protocols with the confidentiality considerations, but can you share those occasions with us, please?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure none of them remember me to start off with. But this one on the screen is with Prince Edward in Ghana. So one of the things I do is, or I'm on, is the Duke of Edinburgh Awards. And we're trying to revive that in Fiji. I think in Australia, that's really popular. I'm not sure about New Zealand. And so we are trying to revive those awards in Fiji. I mean, I see great outcomes, you know, for people who've actually gone through the program. So that was actually in Ghana. It was a great trip. I'd not been to Ghana before. But I met Prince Edward, who's actually, I think he's the patron of the Duke of Edinburgh Awards. And I was very lucky to meet Meghan Markle and Prince Harry when they came to Fiji for their state visit. And I've met Prince Charles as well. I think some of us girls have when Fiji became independent. Where there was functions that they had with the youth. But I guess in all these conversations, what do you say? It's apart from saying, how you finding the country? Are you enjoying it? And wish them well, and so forth. Yeah, but it's always an honor, I guess, to meet people of royalty and also other heads of states as well. I've been quite lucky. I just met the Australian Governor General this week, who's in Fiji. I think he's probably left by now, but I was lucky enough to be invited to the State House for a function and to his welcome ceremony. So I met him as well. I had a good conversation with him. So I chair the Board of Investment Fiji. And so your Governor General and I spoke a lot about trade between the two countries.
Wow, wonderful. That's remarkable having all of those, I suppose, wearing all of those hats, Jenny. So you just mentioned about the trade. Is that the board, the board of the Pacific Island Food Revolution, or is that something different again?
No, that's something else. So Investment Fiji is, so what Investment Fiji does is grant, it's a regulatory agency. So if you're a foreign investor and you want to come to Fiji, you actually have to apply for a certificate to permission to actually operate a business in Fiji. So our role is to promote trade and investment between Fiji and all the other countries. So the Pacific Island Food Revolution is quite different. I'd encourage you all, go on YouTube. There's good videos of Pacific Island Food Revolution. That's just a recent appointment. And when I was asked to go on that, I said, well, I don't know anything about food, really. I'm not a foodie. I'm not an expert. But because my perception of Pacific Island Food Revolution was it was just a TV show. So it brought in people from the different islands, and it's like your master chef, right? But it's with the island, island flavor, island food. But over the years, it's actually grown into health. So the idea is to try and develop healthy recipes for us, for the islanders, because NCDs is really a problem in Fiji and the Pacific. It's really quite a problem. And so with Pacific Island Food Revolution, we try and encourage healthy eating. And I must say, since I've joined, I do think twice before I eat food I know I shouldn't eat, but then I say, oh, you only eat this once, so I'm not a very good ambassador. Yeah.
Well, so you're talking about the food. So do you have would you consider yourself with international taste buds and exploring different types of foods and flavors? And we see now that you do look as though you've got a very productive.
Yeah. Well, there's a good story to this picture, my backyard gardening in 2020. So this was my last trip before COVID struck. So I was actually in Sydney. I was staying with Joshua at the time, and I did meet Grace and the girls on that trip. I always catch up with the girls wherever I go. I've been really lucky with my work. It's taken me all over the world. I'll share some of those countries with you later. And when I was in Sydney, COVID was just starting, and I was in your supermarkets. I went I had a girlfriend, Vivian, as well. I went shopping with her, and I witnessed the scramble for toilet paper. And I saw a fight right in front of me as well. So when I came back to Fiji in February, so in 2020, I actually made 2 trips to Australia. When I came back, I thought, well, okay, we are going to have a problem with food, and with COVID, there's no way I'm going to go to the market. So my house girl and I, we cleared, well, she did all the clearing, not me. So we cleared our backyard, which was full of flowers, for example, and rafers. So this is really our first attempt at planting cabbage. And because we hadn't used the soil for planting vegetables before, you can see how good the vegetables were. I mean, they were really, really good. I couldn't eat all of it. I actually shared it out with my different friends and with the family, of course. And I remember, you know, it's not easy gardening. I don't know how many of you have started gardening, but, you know, trying to squat or sit on a little stool and then trying to get up at our age is not easy. It is really hard.
I think we all understand
but
that.
we're trying to keep the garden up, you know, with growing beans, and we have eggplant and tomatoes and chilies and so forth. Yeah. So, yeah, but I must say it was like really satisfying. And so during COVID, I really didn't need to go to the market at all, you know, because I'm alone at home now. That's Aseri, my house girl. She's been wonderful. So it's her and I, and we actually grow enough vegetables to actually, you know, not having to go to the market. And of course, I've got farmer relatives who give me vegetables from time to time. Yeah.
Wow. Marvelous, Jenny. So you touched on your travels. So obviously it sounds as though and looked as though you certainly had extensive travels during your career in your lifetime. So was there anyone in particular of interest that you actually met, or a memorable country or destination, or would you like to share a whole variety with us?
I was very lucky because as managing partner, I got to see the world because, you know, we're a global firm. So we have meetings of partners throughout the world. You know, so I've been to places like Greece and UK, and that's where I catch up with my nephew Joshua, who was in London then, and I see a Tanya on. I think this may be my niece Tanya in Switzerland. I've been to Switzerland to see her as well. You know, Canada, US, and in most of these locations, or a number of these locations I go to, I actually there's always an alumni or a classmate that I actually catch up with. Yeah, so it's been really good, you know, going to Vietnam. So some of the places, if you ask me what places would stick out in my mind, I would say places like the killing fields in Cambodia. I mean, that was horrific. I'll never forget the killing fields, and all you see is these skulls. And Machu Picchu, I really enjoyed Machu Picchu. That was somewhere that I always wanted to go. So I went to Machu Picchu, and you know, my work has taken me to Brazil, Venice, Rome. I've been to Vatican City twice, and each time I go, I do go and visit. Unfortunately, I didn't get to meet the Pope. Maybe I need to do that next time. I should maybe ask Sister Lucy or Sister Francis or the Archbishop introduce me to the Pope, or try and get in on one of those sessions. That would be great. Yeah. So Singapore, quite a number of countries in Asia, and China. China is an amazing city. You know, if you've been to China, you can see the terracotta warriors, what the Chinese did in those days. The Great Wall of China and the underground tombs. The underground tombs is really amazing. So I've been so fortunate to see a lot of these historical sites. I went to Egypt. I saw, well before the trouble started, thank goodness. So the pyramids, the mummies as well. I've seen all of that. And art, I've been to the Louvre, seen Mona Lisa. I remember standing in front of Mona Lisa and looking at it from all angles. You know what they say, when you look at Mona Lisa, wherever you stand, she actually follows you. So I actually was a bit of a kaidolo, and I thought, I've got to try and do that. So I've had some really great experiences, like churches, amazing churches I've seen. And in Barcelona, the Sagrada in Barcelona, that's still being completed. That, I have to say, that church will always stay in my mind. It's such an amazing church.
Yes, not too elaborate for you. You were just overawed, were you, by the I suppose the talent and the sense and all of the detail, the attention to detail.
Yes.
Wow. Jenny, we have a song, I don't know if you've heard it, that I've Been Everywhere. I think that you could have almost put in all of the names and fitted in that very well. It was a song made very famous in Australia by an Australian singer, so you certainly would qualify for that. Wow, that's amazing, all of those places. It's marvellous that you've had the opportunity of doing that. So is there, do you ever have an opportunity to read, or do you enjoy reading, or movies, music? What sort of?
Yeah, so I think in recent years I haven't read too much, but mainly, reading many things that are of world interest, current affairs and what's happening. I haven't picked up a real novel in a long while, except for maybe autobiographies and biographies, which I do enjoy reading. I try and buy some of these books when I'm away. Yeah, so I read when I can, but nowadays I watch a lot more movies. So I've become a Netflix junkie, I think, on weekends. Though I haven't watched Netflix in about 3 weeks, I think 3 or 4 weeks. I've just been really busy. But I try and, before I go off to bed, wrap up with, and I like to watch comedy. So maybe Seinfeld or Friends, watch some of these really old comedies. Yeah.
Nice and light. Eh?
Yes.
No bad language,
No.
no violence. Yes, just
Yes.
oh, that's lovely. So, Jenny, if there was, is there anyone that you would consider may have had the biggest influence on you during your lifetime? Is there anyone who may have done that?
Yeah, I'd say that at different stages of life, I've had, so growing up, obviously parents, and the family, and my childhood in Turak. I think that was a lovely childhood that I had. We used to play guli guli ganda on the roads. I don't know whether some of you remember guli guli ganda and pani in the streets. I played soccer. I remember I grew up with boys. So I would say that at various stages in my life, and of course the sisters and the teachers, both in St. Anne's and St. Joseph's. But the greatest the person who influenced me most would have been Dixon, my husband. He was really supportive of my career, and I think without him, I would not have been where I am now. I remember when we married, within a year or two, I actually left him in Fiji and I went for a posting in Australia. I know my mother was horrified, but he supported me in all those career decisions, and he actually made me push my own boundaries, because sometimes I sit back and I say, no, I can't do it, I won't do it. It's too much for me. And he always encourages me. Yes, you can do it. And he, would actually make me do things that I would not have attempted otherwise. So yeah, he's been really the strength. Yeah.
Oh, gee, that's a wonderful testament to him. That's fantastic. So you can see on the screen now, can't you, Jenny? Can you see that as well? The
yes, I can. Yeah.
To Mr. Dixon.
Yeah. So this was taken last year with the tourism. Yeah. That was the Prime Minister and a friend of mine, Tammy Tam from the Warwick Hotel. So the tourism industry gave him an award. He'd received other awards as well. And I guess in recognition of the work that he did for tourism, because he actually did do a lot of work for tourism. Tourism was his life. So yeah, they honored him with that award.
Remarkable. Gosh, two remarkable people living together. There was no other way that you could go other than to be very successful by the sound of things. So yeah. So other than Dixon, I guess, is there who you would consider, is there an opportunity for you to sit down and have a good talanoa with a couple of people that you admire and you'd find easy or of great interest to have a chat with? Who could you think of? Anybody that you may be able to do that you'd
now,
enjoy
or
doing?
if I had a choice of who I could have a good talanoa with?
Yes, a choice. Anybody.
Okay.
With the
from
the past, from the
so we often get asked this question, and if I, apart from my good friends that, like now we, catch up for dinners and all that, if I had to choose, like, who else I would like, I think Mother Teresa for me, because I admired the work that she did. Oprah Winfrey, for the, I guess, the how she's brought women to the fore as well. And Barack Obama, I've often thought he'd be good to have a conversation with. Dalai Lama even, I've read some of his books as well. For me, he's actually quite inspiring. And I've often thought, I'd really love to sit down with a Buddhist. I've seen Buddhists in Japan. I've been to temples, and And I really admire how they do the chanting and the discipline that they actually bring to their life. So there's a whole lot of people I'd love to sit down with.
Well, what a full life that is. All right, so I think we've just about come to the end, unless you'd like to add something more, Jenny. Is there something that I've missed out, something that is of great value in your life, or that you'd like to contribute to share with the details with us at all? Is there?
No, I think, thanks, Pam. I think we've covered quite a bit. I could go on and on, but I think you've covered you've had some good questions. I think you've covered quite a bit. But I'm happy. I mean, if the girls wanted to ask questions or remind me of things.
Yes. So, Karen, are there any questions for the Zooming participants at all? If we in the chat box?
There's no questions in the chat box, but there is one picture that I might like to share, and you might like to talk to it, Jenny. We haven't had a chance to have a look at that particular picture. Just let us know what was happening on the day and where that occurred.
Okay. Yeah. So this was on International Women's Day at Investment Fiji, where I was asked to talk about the subject, break the bias, and my thoughts on it. So as I think I said earlier, that I chair the board of Investment Fiji. It has a lot of ladies in that as well, and men. And so this was just giving a short talk on the actual day. Whenever I do, things with women, I always like to bring the men into it, because I think for us to have effective change, the men have to change as well, obviously. And apart from us women, we can't blame the men for everything. We're women, we've got to get out ourselves. And so, yeah, I get invited, every year to talk somewhere. This year, normally this is the first time I've spoken at Investment Fiji. It's not something I particularly enjoy doing, going out and talk, because you got to prepare research. And most times I'm doing this sort of the night before, so I have to wing a fair bit of it.
Oh, well, look, thank you for that. So is there anybody out there who might like to ask a question at this stage? Or? No?
Jenny, I just wanted to ask, so how are you and Gareth coping without Dixon? Are you guys okay? And how about Dixon's mother and his sisters?
Thank you, Grace. Yeah, I think, it was very hard, and it still is for us now with Dixon gone, because he was the eldest in the family. But everyone has stepped up. For me, it took me a few months, because after Dixon passed away, everyone sort of is tippy-toey. And I was in the middle of a whole lot of things. So, after maybe 3 or 4 months, I got back into the swing of things, and I just kept myself busy. And that's how I suppose I've really coped with things. Doing all, and I do a number of other charitable works. Like, for example, I recently got involved with a group. Just a group of us got together. We decided we were going to buy musical instruments for the blind kids. I mean, I had no affiliation with the blind kids. None of us did, but we just thought, wouldn't it be nice to bring music, into the lives of blind children, because we haven't had a particularly a superstar of the blind school, a singer, in a while. So we did that. We aimed to raise $20,000. We actually raised about 60,000. So we started the music program. So for me, I've coped by really being busy. I'm on the board of Habitat for Humanity as well, where we go out and build houses. So I think everybody asks me, you seem more busy than when you were working. I am busy, but it's not stressful. It's things that I really enjoy out there helping people. I think Gareth is doing well as well. Obviously we'll always miss Dixon, but we just, have to get on with life. And he's always there, you have the odd moments where you just break down in tears. You just never know what's going to happen. It took me a while to, every time I go to church, I used to cry, I think, for more than a year, just, listening to music as well, because he had a lovely send-off. Those things would just really trigger me. Yeah. But thank you. I've had great family and friends, on both sides, and friends all over the world and here in Fiji. And, with them, I've been able, I think, to cope. Yeah, but there's always moments, you know, where you actually do get affected as well. Yeah.
Yes, and that's to be expected, and that's a very human thing, Jenny.
Yeah.
Well, look, you have provided us with such a wonderful insight into your amazing life, full of enormous variety and achievements, and we're most grateful to you, Jenny. It's just been lovely, and so we thank you very much for that. It's been such an enlightenment learning about all your life, which is truly amazing.
Sorry, Pam, it's raining so heavily. I can hardly hear you now. It's pouring. Sister Lucy, can you hear the rain?
You want me to repeat
Carry
all of
on,
that?
carry on. That's why I'm just leaning very close. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, so so did you hear any of that? I don't know. I was just thanking you so much for providing us with a wonderful insight into your amazing life and the huge variety of achievements that you have accomplished. And we're most grateful for all of that. So thank you so much. And does our president want to add anything at this stage? What's happening in the future, or which direction we're going to head, Rosalind, or do we just sign up for the night? Karen, did you want to say something?
I've just put a question in the chat. Now I've forgotten what I put in the chat. So Jenny, it's
Sorry, Roz, you might have to speak up because it's really raining here.
okay. So Jenny,
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
you had mentioned earlier that the school management board were having a change this weekend or coming in the next few days. So are you still involved or going to be involved with the school management board at St. Joseph's? Did you get that? Can you hear me, Jenny? Now is it better?
Yes, now I can hear you better. Yeah. I
Yeah,
just heard the last bit about the school management board. Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that there's going to be a new board, a new structure. How much involvement are you going to be involved with this new structure?
Yeah. So it depends on, I suppose, what the sisters would like, but I have indicated to the sisters that I didn't want to chair the new school committee. That's what it's called. And Libby Reed will, I think that's the plan, that she will come on, and the committee members are going to be a lot lesser. So I may go on, if the nuns would like me to, as a representative of the sisters on that particular board. So I will still have some involvement, but I won't really be, for example, coming to the girls for money. So I won't do that. I'm going to let the actual school committee actually do that, plan the projects. But I think we've got a good model going already, as you know, just for the benefit of the other girls. So since I've come on board, you know, we have a list of projects we want to do. We send it out to the alumni. They choose what they want to do. We've got costings and everything for it. So I hope, Roz, you know, people like yourself and Jacinta who's on the call, you continue to work with the school management committee, but never hesitate to, if there's things that you want, or you know, they're not going in the direction that you'd like it to go in, you know, please, you need to speak up, and because I think this relationship that we've established, I'd really like it to actually continue. So I'll always be there. I've said I will help, you know, the sisters. I would like to help the sisters a lot more than what I've done, but I will approach the girls. It's probably more to help the sisters with particular things that need to be done around the place. Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's good. You know, we just like, it'd be good for us all alumni to be kept in the loop when there's changes and who's our point of contact, because it's quite important. You know, we love the purpose of what we're doing, but we need to see the other side as well, that we're on the right track.
Agree, totally agree. Yes.
Yeah. No, I agree. So this Saturday we'll have the AGM to dissolve the board, and then the new committee will actually come into place. So Jackie is still there as the principal. We won't have Derek as our manager. He's actually retired. So we might have to look for another manager, and it's not easy looking for managers. It's quite difficult. Yeah.
Thank
But
you.
but I do want to say again, you know, thank you everyone, all the girls around the world who've actually helped us. there's really another major project which we need to do. Remember all those school desks? I think I put on the alumni chat pictures of those really old school desks that we've had from our time. They're still there. They've been patched. And chairs, and Jackie's been bugging me to get chairs for teachers and new desks. I said to her, I'm going to leave that to the new committee to handle, but that's, I think Roz and Jacinta knows that's been on our project plan for a number of years. We just felt we had other priorities that needed doing. So I hadn't focused on that, but that's the next thing that we do have to do. So, you know, thank you ladies for helping. And of course, all the fundraising that you do, I know it's, you know, not easy now with COVID, and that's why I didn't come to you the last 2 years, but you've all reached out to me and say, hey, what can we do? So I really appreciate that. But we're very mindful that it's not easy. And thank you ladies again. You know, you helped the students with lunches and bus fares during COVID time. That was really gratefully received as well.
And can I just say one more thing? With the new change coming over, we've still got, we've provided for some projects from last year. So we'd like to be able to contact someone just to give us an update as to where that's going, because that's a little bit incomplete from your side, because we need to tell our alumni where the funds have going, what's the progress, and even photos or anything of that sort.
Yes.
So just that's something we'd like.
No, we'll do. I will let, I've told Jackie as well that I'll let the committee actually handle it. So in the last 2 years, we didn't do too much, but what we did do was a major e-learning project, you know, especially given what happened with COVID, everyone was, you know, learning from home online. So we're quite lucky as a school. We're quite well ahead of the others. So we've put cables throughout the school as well. We're just talking to Telecom, I think, on the last bits about getting internet throughout all the classrooms. So we've got, you know, computer labs. We're very proud of our computer labs. We've been changing. We have every year we spend about $20,000 replacing our computers because they were really old. Sister Genevieve used to have secondhand computers in from Canada. When I came on board, I said, no, we will go for new computers. So we actually buy them off a very good supply. That's Josh and Jason's father. So I declare my interest, but they were already supplying the school. And, you know, he agrees, we pay on terms and all that. So we've got really good computer facilities. And I'm also grateful to the New Zealand High Commissioner, who is a good Catholic, or who is a good Catholic. He's not there anymore. But through him, we also managed to get a whole lot of new computers for the school. And what that's done is that, you know, in Fiji, because of the traffic and the transport problems. So girls actually, if you live out in the Sori, you actually leave home about 5:30 to 6 o'clock in order to come to school on time at 8 o'clock. So with our computer labs now, the girls who come early are able to go into the labs and do their research, do their assignments. So those computer labs are really important. That's been really good. So Maritha, I have to thank Maritha Tambulevu, who was also a head girl after me. She has led that project. So remember, this project started off as a diamond project when we had that first big Jubilee celebrations in Fiji. And I think the New Zealand girls funded the project with about, Jacinta, was it about $10,000? I think the New Zealand alumni actually donated towards the project.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's been the exception. So when I came on the board, that project had practically stalled. And so I went back and we investigated where the 10,000 was spent. I think we're quite happy now where we did go because service and stuff was bought. And so I've pushed for the project to be completed. So online learning will be, we can do that quite easily now.
Wow. That's some achievement there, Jenny. Just as I say, repeating myself now, truly remarkable. So are we about ready to wind up for the night, girls?
Yes, I will just put a final word in and a plug which for our next online screening, which basically taps into what you've just been talking about, Jenny, and how we should keep ourselves together as an alumni group. So please put into your diaries Sunday, the 5th of June, where we're going to have a global roundtable. And this is where we will talk about how we can, as a global group of alumni, continue our work and achieve the goals that we want to do for supporting St. Joseph's schools and nuns going forward, and also how we can open up the dialogue to a younger group of alumni, because we're not going to be around very much longer, us oldies. So we want an injection of new blood and new ideas, and get that going across the world. So we've got Sydney, Fiji, California, Japan, and the UK joining in to that Zoom. So put the time aside if you can, and it'll be great to see you all online again on the 5th of June. And Jenny, on behalf of everybody in the committee and our president, Roz, thank you so much for your time tonight. And it's been great just listening to your achievements as one of our past pupils of St. Joseph's. Just fabulous. Just fabulous.
Thank you, Linda, for actually having me speak. I mean, I think it's an honor that you've chosen me as well, and I'm glad I was able to share some of the things that I do. But thank you again. Really, it's all you girls doing the work. I'm not. I'm just sort of, I guess, like a choir conductor, just directing stuff. But you know, you girls have been so helpful, and I'm glad that this global meeting is going ahead, because you know we've spoken about it, and you know Jacinta certainly pushed for that as well. So I'm really glad that you know that we are going ahead with that. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're saying good night then to all.
Good night.
Okay. Good night.
Thanks.
Thank you all. Take care. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Sol. Thanks, Jenny.
Bye.
Bye.
Jenny.